Hi everyone, my name's Kelly Kennan. I go by KK, and this lightning talk is on the functional analysis of verbal behavior. So what is a functional analysis on verbal behavior? So Lerman et al. 2005 broke it down into two separate parts to kind of help people who don't understand the difference between a behavioral-based FA and a verbal behavioral-based FA, try to help them understand it a little bit better. So the first part was he said that we took the verbal operants discussed and identified in Skinner's verbal behavior from 1957, and that is what we're basing it off of. And we took the format of the functional behavioral assessment or the functional analysis of behavior from Iwata et al. In 1994 and basically took those verbal operants and placed those as the conditions within Iwata et al.'s format of an FA. So in Iwata et al.'s format, you have the control phase and then 3 phases to identify the function of behavior. But in the functional analysis of verbal behavior, we have the control phase and then 3 phases of different verbal operants, because different verbal operants have different motivating operations, SDs, whatever you would like to call it, for engaging in them. So we're basically taking that format to identify the function of verbal behavior. So a definition would be that a functional analysis of verbal behavior is an assessment-based approach in which the same verbal response is tested across different functional verbal operants in order to determine its function. We're trying to find out why this person is engaging in this specific type of verbal behavior. Is it to gain access to things? Is it to label it? We're trying to figure that out. Why does this matter? We usually start with the pros, but we're going to start with the cons. All right. So it's time consuming. Doing this is super time consuming. It's lengthy and billable hours. A lot of times when insurance provides you billable hours for doing a functional analysis, it does not include enough for doing the FA alone or the FBA alone, writing the BIP. So why would we add more to that? We're busy enough. It's because we're here for the kids. We're not here for the money, guys. So the pros to doing it. Lerman et al. Identified several pros, but I'm going to go over 2. Identification of function can lead to identifying the training order of verbal operants. Not every kid learns verbal behavior the same way. They say developmentally mans come first, but I have not experienced that as often as I should. I have kids who will label and tact till they die, but trying to get them to man for what they want, I'll die before I get them to say what they want. And so being able to learn the order in which these verbal operants should be trained for each kid could be life-changing. It also helps to identify the motivating operations or lack thereof for engaging in verbal behavior. If this kid is not having enough reinforcement following the verbal behavior, they won't engage in it. Everything they do surrounds motivation. And this just helps us identify that in relations to verbal behavior. So here's previous research. Lerman et al. 2005 developed one format of conducting an FA, found it was effective in identifying functions of verbal operants. Kelly et al. 2007 used the FA on verbal behavior to study generalization between the operants. In 2008, Norman et al. Tested different layouts of the FA on verbal behavior design to see if one was more effective than the other. That's all great, but that's it. There's little studies here and there, but they all fall under the general categories that these studies already touched on. So here's where we can go from there. Future research needs to be able to use the FA on verbal behavior to assess decreases in verbal behavior in clients who have already been in training. Have you ever seen a lot of progress in a kid and then it just stops at the blink of an eye? Why? Did the function change? What's going on? I also want to be able to identify if training mans first results in decrease of generalization to other verbal operants of the same word or phrase due to possible extinction. They're no longer obtaining that tangible reinforcement when they manned. So are they actually tacting or are they manding? Is this being placed on extinction? It's fascinating to me. Another topic to touch on is rates and skill acquisition of verbal operants amongst clients who received an FA in verbal behavior and those who didn't. That has not been touched on yet in the science. Of course, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to delve into this more with me, just reach out. My email's right there. Thank you guys so much for your time, and here's my references if you guys need them. All right.